In this video, we're going to utilize a reducer to isolate our toggle and input values features of our sortable rules list. We'll show we can add a reducer for state management without affecting other functionality. Whether you're starting here or have been following all along, let's get started. The sortable structure is staying mostly the same. The important change is the qualifying rules will now own its own content state through a reducer. It passes the current state and the dispatch function into each draggable rule, then down to the toggle and input components. When the user changes something, the component dispatches an action. The reducer creates the new state, and the React updates the controlled components. Let's build the reducer first. Before we continue, I just wanted to go through a few things here. So we've defined the contract for the rule here, as you can see, and then we've also created a type that is the state, which has a rule ID as its identifier, and then contains whether it's enabled and the input values potentially for that rule. And then we also have the rule action, which defines what the reducer can actually do, like which functions it can actually execute. This actually looks a little complicated, but it's really not. All we're doing is we're setting and creating the initial state for our reducer by walking through each of the rules and each of those rules inputs and reducing them to the objects you see here and returning ultimately one object that is the rule content state. This is where the crux of the work is done for the reducer, particularly for our rules. And you can see we've only implemented one of the three potential actions in here. We have the toggle in here. And so what we're doing is we're taking a spread of the state, and then we're creating the action underneath here and providing the enabled value. The enabled value is the only thing that really changes in here. And obviously we want to do this and go through all this trouble because we do not want to mutate our values. You can see here now that we've added on the two remaining actions in addition to the toggle. We have the input one that accepts the editing or handles the editing for the inputs of a rule. The only difference here is it's moderately more complicated because it goes one level deeper to handle the values. But then we have the reset all, which just calls the function that we created up here that we talked about earlier. So you can see here now the reducer, this is all the logic it requires, not a ton of it. And we've now separated the editing of these values, either the toggles, the inputs, or the reset, from the drag and drop operation of the entire rule itself. So it's kind of nice that we've separated this out. So we've coded out the rule toggle. Excuse me. There are three parameters to note here. The most important of which is this dispatch. This dispatch one called actually executes the use reducer function that determines what the change is. Enabled is the actual actual effect of this change and what happens inside this component. And then the rule is obviously the rule that we're dealing with. So you can see here, very importantly, on change, we call the dispatch, which use reducer provides, and we tell it, hey, this rule ID needs to have this toggle rule executed on its behalf. Now, inputs has been coded out. You can see the input parameters here. The rule definitions of the inputs are provided, the values of the inputs themselves, and then this is actually still the dispatch. It's just wrapped in a function. So this is how it communicates the dispatch here. And you can see that we reject anything that doesn't have any inputs at all. We just return a null. And if it gets through that pass, then we come down here and we check to see what type it is, so that we can render the right type of input, whether it's a select, a number, a text, or Boolean. Any new ones will be added here. So as you can see, we've updated the draggable rule component, and we've added a couple of props. One is this rule content state. This contains the current state of a particular rule, right? So we're dealing with one rule within the draggable rule here. We've got the state for it, and then of course the important dispatch method that says, hey, when you need an action performed on this particular rule state, call this and pass in the appropriate parameters. And then of course you'll see here we're getting that particular rule content for this rule. And we have two methods here, or two functions, I should say, that handle the toggle and the input value changes. So dispatch is called here. And then obviously down here in the JSX, we only show when there's an actual rule, right? There's actual content. We show the rule toggle. And then the only time we show the inputs, right, is if the rule toggle has been selected as enabled, right? So we don't want to show or do anything with this when it's not enabled. Now we're going to move on to the highest level component, which is the qualifying rules. So in this last component that we're altering, the highest level one, the qualifying rules, I'll walk you through the changes that were just made. Number one, this is where the linking between the reducer and the React code occurs. So we pass in our rules reducer that we created in the very beginning of this, and we receive back the dispatch method and then the current state of the rules right now. So that's what we do here. And then we have in two places we do this. We take the converted rules and we call the dispatch method to reset all, and that's on the use effect here. So when we first come in or when the rules change. And then also right down here, when we reset the rules, we're resetting them here. We're calling dispatch and having it reset the rules there. And then all we have to do here too is just in the draggable rule, what we just changed a moment ago, is wire up the rule content in the dispatch, and that's it. So now let's take one final look at the results or outcome of this. So with the use reducer, we were able to create a list of rules, use configuration, and provide enable or disable and its own proprietary set of rules for it. So you can see here for points in soccer, 5 points for a win for whatever reason that's set there. But like, you can change and alter these. For goal differential, it's different. It's total goals or average goals. And then we have, things like fair play, 1 point for a yellow card, 3 points for a red card, that sort of thing if you get down to that level of tiebreaker. So very configurable, very cool way of doing this. And so in just a little bit of code we created, we were able to isolate a lot of functionality and keep these components really clean. I really appreciate everyone watching this, and I look forward to seeing you next time.